The following is a presentation of the TNH Podcast Network.
The Warriors have the best starting lineup, personally, that I've ever seen. You know, they've got guys up and down the roster. They've got legitimately the best starting five I've ever seen.
There is potential that an Eastern Conference team will not only challenge the Warriors this year, but potentially beat them in the long run.
Who's going to beat the Warriors? Because this is interesting.
Any team that plays defense has a chance to beat the Warriors. Any team that plays West Coast basketball against the Warriors will lose.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the Hoopcats podcast on the TNH Podcast Network. My name is Sam Eggert, and I'm here along with some of my volleyball teammates, Yanni and
What's up, everyone? How we doing?
and Matt Erb.
Hey guys, love me some basketball, and I'm excited to get into it.
Let's get right into it. So, a couple of topics I want to go over. Obviously, we're coming off a really crazy NBA trade deadline day. I think it only makes sense to begin with the trades, or maybe the trade that didn't happen that had the most speculation around it, that of which is the Anthony Davis saga, which we have all come to know and love, or maybe hate if you're somebody like me. Brief rundown, Anthony Davis asked for a trade from the Pelicans. The Lakers showed immediate interest and put all of their chips on the table, betting against literally nobody. And in the end, it turned out the Pelicans, from what I could tell, they really just tried to stir the pot with the Lakers, if that makes sense. Would you guys agree? They were trying to just like...
It's pretty interesting, I find, because a lot of times when you see trades like this, you don't see the public deal until the trade's actually completed. And the Pelicans are releasing everything that the Lakers are given. And is it one of the smartest moves I've ever seen out of the Pelicans?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that you bring that up because looking back on this, like from the beginning, we should have been able to tell that the Pelicans were up to something really different that we haven't seen before. Because you're right, how often do we hear about the exact offer of a trade before it really like goes through, if there's an actual serious talk? Clearly these talks were serious only on one end. And yeah, the Pelicans really played the Lakers, and it was shown most apparent in the Lakers, what was it, 142-point loss to the Pacers the other night?
To the Victor Oladipo-less Pacer now. I mean, did anyone really believe this was going to get done? I didn't think it was 8 days, 10 days before it was announced he wanted out. Especially the Lakers. I mean, I don't necessarily, as a Boston fan, I gotta say I'm biased, obviously, but I just couldn't believe that the Lakers would get a deal done before Boston could even get into the mix.
Yeah, I thought there was no chance whatsoever either. Just the fact that the Pelicans were asking for such a ridiculous trade, I was just like, I couldn't see it happening. Also, it makes more sense for them because they can get more offers from other suitors come the end of the season because of the restrictions surrounding guys like Kyrie Irving, for example, where the Celtics can't make a trade and the Celtics have the most assets in the NBA. So the Pelicans, while they have made mistakes in recent memory, they're not as stupid as some might think they are.
See, my quick opinion on this whole Celtics-Anthony Davis thing is, do you guys think it's worth the Celtics trading for Anthony Davis with potential of unre-signing and then a loss of potentially Kyrie and Anthony Davis in the same season while giving up players like Jason Tatum, Terry Rozier, guys that you've established your whole culture around? Is that even worth it?
So here's the thing. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I say if Kyrie re-signs, we should absolutely trade for Anthony Davis. Obviously, Jason Tatum would probably be in the mix. I think we can all agree on that if Kyrie re-signs. But I say if Kyrie doesn't re-sign and he leaves out, it's like, yes, we still can trade for Anthony Davis, but he's not going to want to stay if Kyrie's not there. So I say might as well keep Terry Rozier, who's no Kyrie Irving, let's be clear, but he's a starting point guard in the NBA, and he can very well be for a not so good lower tier team. So, and then we also, if we don't get Kyrie, then we also have to develop Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, two, I think, future All-Stars.
And then you also got to consider what Anthony Davis's father was talking about, with him considering the Celtics to be a disloyal franchise given what they did to Isaiah Thomas. But obviously, Mr. Davis isn't aware that Isaiah Thomas was... Look, I love Isaiah Thomas. I need people to know that before I say what I'm about to say. But Isaiah Thomas is the worst defensive point guard I have ever seen play basketball. In addition to that, he suffered a debilitating hip injury that's kept him out for almost a year, over a year, something like that now. He was with the Cavs. It didn't work. He went to the Lakers. He wasn't himself. Now he's with the Nuggets. He's playing G League ball starting this week, as reported today by Shams Charania of The Athletic. He's also backing up not only their starting point guard, Jamal Murray, but but their backup point guard, Monte Morris, who's come out to be a really, really good player. I see him as like a Jameer Nelson, but that's another topic for another time. So yeah, Anthony Davis's father clearly doesn't know what he's talking about, clearly doesn't follow the NBA, clearly just wants his son in LA so he can make a comical amount of money. That's my take on it. You guys have anything else to add on the AD saga?
See, the worst part about it is everything has to be public nowadays. Every little thing. Anthony Davis is mad at his team. He requests a trade. Everybody knows. Everything's on the rumor block. And now he's got to play the rest of his season with the Pelicans. And first of all, there's no fundamental chemistry there, let alone in Los Angeles, where there's going to be no fundamental chemistry at all, with LeBron trying to ship out every single one of his little minions. So I just find it insane that every single time that people request trades like this, it has to blow up into this huge thing. And the topic does not become, oh, how'd they play last night? It's where are they going to be in a year? And that's where I think the NBA is starting to fall away.
Now, on your point, Sam, about the Anthony Davis Sr., I can't think of any. You're not going to find a large amount of people hating Isaiah Thomas, right? There's not a lot of people who are going to hate him. But Boston absolutely robbed Cleveland for that trade. And IT had a great MVP caliber season that year, but it was absolutely the best move, whether he was great for Boston or not, because we got 2 years at least out of Kyrie Irving, while Isaiah Thomas played half a season at Cleveland, averaged, I think, 15, 16 points maybe. And he's, like you said, I personally didn't know he's into the G League now, but I knew he wasn't in the NBA. He wasn't coming back anytime soon.
He's on a rehab assignment in the G League.
Yeah. So, I mean, this IT will never be, I don't think, the same as he was, averaging almost 30 points a game. And there's just no way that Anthony Davis Sr. can be serious with that kind of crap.
I totally agree. So let's move on to our next topic. There is a big trade coming out of Philadelphia where the Sixers sent Landry Shamet, young sharpshooter from Wichita State, to the Los Angeles Clippers, along with Mike Muscala, who eventually got traded to the Lakers, and a couple of draft picks for budding superstar, a guy who I've been supporting for a long time, Tobias Harris, who should have been an all-star this year, along with Boban, who we all agree is a legend, and Mike Scott, who's personally one of my least favorite players in basketball. But let's talk about the Sixers. Let's talk about how we see them as a threat specifically to the Celtics in the East this year. How much does Tobias really add to these guys?
Listen, I love Tobias Harris, and a theme in the East for the trade deadline was team completion. There's a lot. The East is very top-heavy with the Bucks, the Raptors, the Celtics, and the Sixers, and sadly not the Pacers anymore, but those four teams are very top-heavy, and they're trying to find the final piece that's going to push them past the rest. And for the Sixers, they thought it was Tobias Harris. I don't think that's going to be enough for them. I think that the Bucks deal made them ahead of the rest of the competition with acquiring, who was it?
Nikola
Mirotic. But this Tobias Harris deal definitely benefits the Sixers. Don't think it'll put them to where they want to be, though.
I think it's interesting that you bring up the Mirotic deal because Tobias Harris and Nikola Mirotic are fairly similar players, given that they're big men who can shoot. Tobias Harris has a lot more to his game. He has the ability to create his own shot. He'll hit shots from the mid-range. He's good attacking the basket. He's a decent rebounder, and he's a very good three-point shooter. Mirotic, on the other hand, not worth as much money. Also, I think he still has a couple years left.
And injury-prone, too.
He's very injury-prone. That's another good point. Tobias Harris is on an expiring contract. I think that the hotter commodity of these two guys is Mirotic because he adds this floor spacing for less cost and less risk. Like, look, the Sixers gave up a lot to get a guy who might not even re-sign. Obviously, I think Harris fits in well. I think he fits in well in just about any team in the NBA, but I don't think this is a home run deal for the Sixers. Do you guys think the same way, or do you think otherwise?
I think that obviously the Sixers got better. No one's disagreeing that they got worse with that trade. So Tobias Harris, we all know, has one of the lowest. It has the lowest usage rate for a player averaging more than 20 points. And I think we can all agree also that the 76ers, if they needed to add something, they needed shooting. Regardless of their depth of the bench, for at least their starting lineup, they only had J.J. Redick who could shoot. Ben Simmons is a liability when he's when he can't shoot the ball as a point guard. And being his size, he can do a lot of things really well. He can't shoot the ball for his life. And I think I don't think he's attempted any three-pointers this year. I think he attempted less than 10 jump shots.
He's at like 11 threes on his entire career, so if that says anything.
Yeah, so it just makes the discussion of who's the best team in the East a whole lot harder. I never thought the Pacers would win a 7-game series, even with Victor Oladipo. against any of these teams. Maybe the Sixers before they added Tobias Harris, but the East just got crazier than the West, in my opinion.
The East has always been that other division. I mean, everyone looks to the West. The West this, the West that. The West is going to win it every year. The Warriors, the Rockets. You got just teams that look like they can't be beaten by those measly teams in the East. But it's starting to even out, in my opinion. The teams in the East are starting to play hard. They're starting to shoot the ball better. They're starting to play defense. They play on both ends of the court. I think that there is potential that an Eastern Conference team will not only challenge the Warriors this year, but potentially beat them in the long run.
Who's going to beat the Warriors? I want to hear this because this is interesting.
Listen, any team that plays defense has a chance to beat the Warriors. Any team that plays West Coast basketball against the Warriors will lose, regardless.
Who? You haven't told me who.
Sam, did you watch? I know it's the John Wall-less Wizards, and they're the sorry Wizards as far as I'm concerned. But did you see that game last night? Milwaukee Wizards. See that? Did you watch that?
I did not. I was watching.
It was some of the most impressive basketball from Milwaukee I've seen. They hit a lot. Giannis hit 3 threes in a row. He also he was 3 for 3 on threes. He got like 43 points. I think his career high is 44, so he was a little short of that. But I've never seen Giannis play better. Brook Lopez shot the 3-ball well. Eric Bledsoe did. I don't know if you saw the highlights of that where he.
I did see the highlights.
Where he dunked the missed free throw from
free
Giannis.
Throw,
Yeah, I mean.
Unreal.
I think any of those top. First of all, I got to see how Philly does with Tobias Harris before I make that call.
Let's talk about this. The Warriors have the best starting lineup, personally, that I've ever seen. DeMarcus Cousins, one of the best centers in the past 10 years. Kevin Durant, we don't even need to go into that. Steph Curry, greatest shooter of all time. Klay Thompson, top 5 shooter of all time. Draymond Green does the little things. I personally don't love him as much this year as I did in the past. I think he's fallen off a little bit. Still a really good player. Coming off the bench, Looney's a good rebounder. Andre Iguodala, still a very, very effective player. Cook, underrated. They've got guys up and down the roster. They've got legitimately the best starting 5 I've ever seen. I know the Bucks are good. I know they space the floor better than everyone else in the league. I know Mike Budenholzer's a really good coach. I know Giannis is Giannis. Middleton's Middleton. Lopez is shooting better than he has his entire career. Eric Bledsoe's a really good point guard. I get all of that. But you can't... I'm looking at their roster, and, I just don't think that they have enough guys to keep up with them. I don't see it.
Yeah, but we also have to keep in mind that Oklahoma City and I think Denver, too, are also big threats to the Warriors before they even get to the finals.
Don't give me that.
Because, look how OKC's playing. Russell Westbrook...
I know how OKC's playing.
Russell Westbrook isn't shooting the ball well whatsoever. But this guy, have you seen this guy, Paul George, play?
Paul George playing at an MVP level.
He's
I'm
playing
not
at MVP level.
It's not enough.
He's truly something special. And we got to give this man props. And I think the OKC and the Warriors are playing relatively soon, if I'm correct. I think the Warriors took the first game or two, but especially with DeMarcus Cousins, I'm excited to see how that plans out. And I think with OKC's elite defense, they can get at least pull a game or two.
I agree. They'll win a game or two if they play the Warriors in the playoffs. That is 100% fair. That can definitely happen. But a full series, I'm just going to say it, 0% chance. Barring any injuries, 0% chance anybody touches them in the West. Only team that I think has a chance to beat the Warriors in the West is the Lakers, and that's because of LeBron. I hate LeBron, but that's what he does.
See, here's my take on that. Any team that plays the Warriors in a West Coast, new age style, 3-point early shot clock basketball game will lose. 10 times out of 10, you have no chance. You are going to lose every single time. If you play the Warriors like the Celtics play the Warriors, hard defense, like the Raptors play the Warriors, hard defense, good shots, good possessions, you not only have a chance to beat the Warriors, you will beat the Warriors. Shooting only gets you so far on certain nights. Obviously, the Warriors are the best shooting team, potentially of all time. However, you play defense against these guys, make it hard for them to do what they do, and you've seen it in the past. The Celtics play the Warriors the hardest I've ever seen any team play. I think they're 2-2 in the past 4 times they played the Warriors. I think the score has been -2 for the Celtics, so they're right there. And it is crazy to see the difference between West Coast basketball, just hauling threes early shot clock, and East Coast hard defense. I think there's a chance this year.
Sam, let's break this down a little simpler. Who are the top 4 teams in the West for you? Who do you imagine in the semifinals for the West?
I'm going to say the top 4 teams. Warriors number 1, Nuggets number 2, Thunder number 3, And then the 4 spot, like the Lakers.
You just said Lakers, so you better say Lakers.
Well, yeah, I'm going to get to that. The Lakers' record doesn't say it, given that they're in the 10th place in the West right now. But LeBron was out for an extended period of time. So I'm going to say the Lakers over the Blazers and the Rockets, although they're right there with them too. But I'm saying the Lakers more because I've seen what LeBron's done in the playoffs year in and year out, and I have no reason to think that he won't do that this year.
I agree with the first 3. Maybe not necessarily in that order, besides Golden State, but I'd give the Rockets up there too. I think when Clint Capella comes back in 2 or 3 weeks, he's gonna be back balling, and that they picked up an excellent in Fareed, right?
They needed
he's
that.
been balling in Houston too. CP3's back. He's getting better. He's picking up his legs. So I don't count. I can't. I know they lost Trevor Ariza and Luka Babamute, but I physically or mentally can't comprehend the Rockets losing in the first round. They have to make it in the second round. I think I just don't see. Maybe the Lakers will beat out Denver.
As of now, the Rockets will be playing the Blazers in the first round based on how the standings are currently. I agree with you. I think they beat the Blazers. I think that I love C.J. McCollum. I love Dame. I like Nurkic. Don't love him. But their wing depth straight up is not there. Yeah, they're going to lose. I agree with you on that. But Rockets versus Lakers, who do you take?
If I'm looking, are we talking playoff basketball here?
Yes.
Obviously, you have LeBron James. He's been to plenty of playoff games. Where's the rest of the Lakers roster been in regards to playoff series? I mean, you got like the vets. JaVale McGee played a backup center role for Golden State, basically had no impact. Rondo has his experience, but he's washed.
But he's what?
He's
no, he's
washed.
not. You're wrong about that.
He's
Look,
also
Let me make a point.
injury prone.
Let me make a point about Rajon Rondo. Who watched the Pacers versus Blazers series last year? Anybody watch that? Anybody see what Rondo did last year in the playoffs?
I think you mean Pelicans.
Pelicans, sorry.
Pelicans.
Pacers versus Blazers. Yeah, Pelicans. I'm going to pull up his stats from that series.
Playoff run is a real thing. No one's denying that.
Yes.
But
however,
I just want these numbers to be out there.
I just want to make it clear that the Lakers, before even talking about playoffs, need to make the playoffs. And for those who don't know, I'm the biggest LeBron hater, let alone Laker hater in the whole entire country. I've put tons of money down so far that they won't make the playoffs. And if you're out there and you're willing to throw me some money on this, I'd be willing to take it. I don't even see the Lakers in the playoffs this year. And everyone says, LeBron this, LeBron that. He has to make the playoffs. He has to make the Western Conference Finals. It's not going to happen. They play the toughest schedule to go. And with LeBron in an easy first half of the schedule, they went 20-14. That doesn't blow me out of the water. That is not an absurd change for them going 5th in the West to now 10th in the West. It's not like they've gone 20-0 with LeBron and 0-20 without him. They were mediocre with LeBron. They were terrible without him, but they were mediocre with LeBron. I don't think with this hard schedule, not only is LeBron going to be able to make them push to the playoffs, I just don't think the rest of the guys have what it takes to even get to the playoffs.
All right, we watched last year's playoffs, as I already brought up. We watched the season last year, how that played out. We saw the Cavs basically fall to rock bottom last year, even when they had LeBron. They made a couple of moves. They got better. All that being said, what the Lakers have compared to what the Cavaliers had last year, in my opinion, is better. I think they have a better roster. I think that if they can sneak into the 7 or 6 seed, we'll see them in the Western Conference Finals. If they get that 8th seed, they're playing the Warriors first round. Things might not go as well, but I think that it all depends on when they meet the Warriors.
I 100% agree. This Lakers roster is better than the Cavaliers roster of last year that made the NBA Finals. However, it's not a LeBron roster. LeBron rosters include guys that are standstill shooters that can catch the ball off of his drive and hit every single shot. Guys that include Kyle Korver. Just guys that can stand there, hit shots that have won him championships. Shane Battier, Ray Allen. Guys that have dominated.
Kevin Love,
Can I
J.R.
say-
Smith.
Yes.
Reggie Bullock, they just traded for him. One of the most underrated sharpshooters in basketball. I'll leave that out there.
Reggie Bullock's also always been a good guard. I've loved Reggie Bullock. But these are guys that LeBron needs. Kyle Kuzma is a decent shooter. I would not put him on any of the guys I just mentioned level. Brandon Ingram is a guy that needs to create his own shot. Brandon Ingram's a great player. I'm a huge Duke fan. Brandon Ingram is part of the brotherhood. He's a great player. He will be a great player. But he needs the ball in his hands at all time. And with LeBron, that does not happen. Rondo is a point guard, and he has that style where he also needs the ball to do what he has to do, but that is LeBron as well. I just don't think that they have the exact pieces that a LeBron team needs.
Yeah, this isn't the conventional LeBron team, but I want to bring up one more thing about Rondo. He's shooting a career-high 41.7% from 3 this year. Granted, he's only taken, I think, 48 threes. He's 20 for 48 on the year from 3. So there's improvement, not the volume. Either
That's
way,
something
that's
that can win
better.
a playoff series.
It's something that'll make a difference, exactly, because you can... I'm not saying you're going to rely on Rajon Rondo's three-point shot, because that's never been a thing, never will be a thing. But if it's there, it's not bad, So I think that they can make a lot of noise. I think that in my opinion, they pose the biggest challenge to the Warriors. Matt, you think it's the Rockets, right?
Yeah, to the Warriors, I'm going to pick OKC.
Oh, you're going
But
to pick OKC.
I think the Rockets are better than the Lakers.
So, Yanni, who would you say poses the biggest threat to the Warriors?
In the West.
In the West.
I wouldn't give it to them now, but the Nuggets are really talented. They're really deep. I like OKC. The Warriors are going to beat all these teams regardless because all these teams play West Coast basketball. Except OKC. I put them in the exception. They play hard defense. Russ is the hardest working player in the whole entire league. But all these teams play West Coast basketball. Standstill jack shooters. The Warriors win that series 7 times out of 7.
All right, well, let's move on to our next topic. This is another really big trade that happened this year. Markelle Fultz. The saga continues. He's going to Orlando. Traded for Jonathan Simmons, who's coming off an injury. He's been struggling all season. In addition, a first-round pick and a second-round pick.
He's a second rounder.
I think it was both the first and the second
Might
rounder.
have been both, yep.
Either way, Markel's in Orlando. They don't have a point guard of the future until now. What do you guys see? Do you see him playing this year? Do you see them holding him out? What do you think?
So, I'm a huge college basketball fan, for those who don't know. And watching Markelle Fultz back in his day was one of the craziest things I've seen on a college basketball court since I've started watching. The guy is talented. The guy can score at will. He has an amazing jump shot, incredible bounce. He has potential. What we have now is a shell of a man that once was. I don't know what happened, but he went to Philadelphia and broke. And I don't know if Danny Ainge is a mind reader or a future seer or something.
Or if he can just get access to injury reports.
Literally future injury reports that we don't even know of. But this guy is broken. He is not fixable. And I love the old Markelle Fultz. I absolutely admire the talent that this guy had. I think it's gone. I don't think he has a chance.
No, I'm going to take your word for it that he was a great college player because I didn't watch a lot of him in college. I didn't know a lot about him until he was drafted. I looked him up. He seemed pretty good. I don't know if it was necessarily the Philadelphia organization that ruined him. Maybe it was just him being unlucky. I also have read that he's dealing with personal demons, which I can't speak on. I don't know anything about, but obviously that could be affecting his game as well. I think Orlando is a good. I think any place out of Philly is good for him. Orlando, especially because they're a rising team. They're not a high playoff team, but they're a rising team with Vucevic and Aaron Gordon as well. So I have to say right now Philadelphia won the trade because they're getting rid of Markelle Fultz, someone who is a headache for them right now. But again, we'll see in the future. I really hope this kid can pull it off and show us why he was the number one pick.
Yeah, so the Markelle Fultz thing is something I find especially interesting because this isn't anything that we've really seen since I've been following the NBA, basically since 2005 is when I really started. But in an article posted yesterday from Josh Robbins of The Athletic states that Fultz desperately needed a new team. Burdened by the enormous expectations of being a top overall pick, Fultz never lived up to the hype in Philadelphia. His once reliable shooting stroke went haywire, the result of thoracic outlet syndrome, a painful condition that impacts his right shoulder and a separate injury to his right wrist. As Fultz tried to work through the physical pain, he developed a case of the quote-unquote yips, especially as he shot free throws, which added to the pressure. So there is a diagnosis of what happened to Fultz. It's something that we haven't really seen that often. We saw him in the Miami series a little bit last year, and I don't think anybody's going to disagree that Fultz has all the talent in the world. It's a matter of him getting his shot back. It's a matter of him healing from this really bad injury that's totally derailed his career. But, I mean, I think the reason why we're in this situation right now with Markelle Fultz, the reason why he's seen the way that he's seen and perceived as potentially one of the biggest busts of all time is purely because of setting. The fact that he was in Philadelphia, which is one of the most aggressive media markets out there. It's really Philly, Boston, New York. I don't think anybody's arguing that. The spotlight was on him. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy who takes well to having cameras on him at all times and all that stuff that goes along with that. I think that that's another thing that really made his development halt to an extent and really sidetracked him getting back into his own, whether it be from the physical standpoint with his shoulder injury and wrist injury, or from the mental standpoint of just having this, like simply as he said, having the yips and not knowing where to turn and what to do. Now, with the Magic, they've never been known for their player development by any means whatsoever. It's kind of a big reason why they struggled for a long time. But this is a new setting. Orlando isn't the best basketball town, and that might just be the perfect thing for him. And I also think that if he gets thrown into the lineup, even if his shot's not completely there, he's probably doing better things than what DJ Augustine's doing. No disrespect to DJ, I like him a lot, but he's simply not a number one point guard in this league. I think Fultz right now obviously needs to get a shot back on track, but looking at him as a distributor, as a defensive player, as somebody who can attack the basket, find openings on the court, I still think he's really good. Do you guys agree or disagree?
I think he has that potential. I just don't know if it's going to ever be back to what it was. I mean, I have such high expectations because I've followed him for so long. I mean, I saw his high school stuff. I watched him in college when I could, but I just don't know if he can live up to what I was so used to seeing.
You know, when I think of this situation, I think the clear name that comes to mind is Anthony Bennett. That man played 150-something games, averaged little 4.5 points a game now in the G League, right? I hope he's on track to be just as bad, if not worse, if he doesn't get things together. I think this is a good. Personally, Markelle Fultz will do better in somewhere away from Philly, especially Orlando. So I think overall for Markelle Fultz's sake, he's a lot healthier in this somewhere outside of Philly.
How long do you give him until he's classified as one of those Greg Odoms?
I give him 2
Lonnie
years.
Browns.
Let's get him back on the court healthy.
Then we'll reevaluate.
Then we'll see.
I
Because
agree.
it's unfair to judge him when he's hurt.
You're right.
True.
All right, let's move on. This is probably going to be our last topic, given that we're running out of time. I'm a Celtics fan. You guys know that. I'm from Boston. I bleed green. I've been going to games my whole life. For some reason this year, I don't know if it's just from the art. I do know why. I read a lot of articles on sports, particularly in The Athletic. Karis LeVert of the Brooklyn Nets has been one of the most polarizing topics for me as a basketball fan. This is a guy who, he played 4 years at Michigan. He made the Final Four a couple of times. Did he win a national championship?
I don't think so. I'm going to go with no, but I can't tell you off the top of my head.
I'm going to look it up.
Who are we talking about?
Karis LeVert.
Where did he go to school?
Michigan.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think he won one either.
Yeah.
Either way, Karis LeVert, he was great at Michigan. He was projected to be a high draft pick. He got an injury when he was there. Kind of derailed him. I think he tore his ACL. He ended up getting drafted later than anticipated. He was around the 20th pick approximately. This season, at the beginning of the year, he was averaging 22 points, couple of rebounds, couple of assists. He had multiple game-winning shots, established himself as the Nets' best player and their late-game closer. And that's on a roster with good players like Spencer Dinwiddie, D'Angelo Russell, Joe Harris, Jared Allen, who are other guys who I could talk for hours about. But right now the focus is on LeVert. He's back. The Nets are already dealing with a lot of injuries. What do you guys expect in his return? Do you think he's obviously going to be slowly reintegrated back into the lineup? My question for you guys is, does this set the Nets over the top? Does this make the Nets a legitimate threat in the East, or are they still a budding franchise who's not there yet?
It's definitely a budding franchise. It's definitely I don't think anyone expected them to be this good. No, I think we all knew D'Angelo Russell could be an all-star, but this year I wouldn't have called it. There's no way. Jared Allen, I love this kid, Jared Allen. This guy, I read somewhere that his only purpose is just to block superstars. He's blocked LeBron James, he's blocked Giannis, he's blocked, I think, AD twice. So I absolutely love this kid. It's definitely a rising team, no doubt about it. But maybe they'll take a game, maybe two, from the top 4 teams in these. There's just no way they're getting out of the first round. There's just no way. It's impossible for them. I don't care how much potential. I like to see Karis LeVert come back, see if he can average those 20 points a game after broken foot, right? Was that his injury?
Dislocated foot.
Extremely gruesome.
So
Extremely gruesome.
I just it's a up and coming team after years of mediocrity, if that, or of sucking,
Just
really.
being poor.
Yeah, so they're in the right direction, and I think they're gonna land a free agent this season too.
I'm going to agree with you on that one, but I love what they have going forward. D'Angelo Russell coming to the Nets was one of the most important moves he's going to make in his whole entire career, and it's showing this year especially. The guy's a talent. He's extremely well-rounded on the offensive end, and he knows how to play basketball. He is what James Harden was when he went to the Rockets. He wasn't what he was on the Thunder when he was on the Rockets. It's the same thing for D'Angelo Russell. He sprouted. This is him. Spencer Dinwiddie can play. I think the Nets are primed for a future talent. I think they're going to be very good.
Before you get into it, I just want to point out who are the 2 players that the Lakers gave up with in the last 2 years? D'Angelo Russell and Julius Randle. Are those people? Those 2 players not balling out right now where they are?
They're both playing
Julius
great
Randle's
basketball.
after Anthony Davis leaves. Julius Randle is going to be one of the best players on that team.
Julius Randle and Jahlil Okafor are going to be a dominant front court. Just wait on it.
Jahlil Okafor, I don't want to get into that.
Hey,
That's a hot take.
He's averaging about 12 and 9 in his past 6, so just be ready. Jahlil can play basketball.
Jahlil Okafor can play 1980s basketball. Sure, I'll give you that. Jahlil Okafor is the kind of guy who's like, 6'11", 260 pounds. Yeah, he can put up 12 and 9 because he's a body, but he's not going to win anything for that team. Don't get me started on that. Now, for the Nets, because this is the conversation we're having. These guys remind me of the Celtics. You guys are wondering why. I can see it on your face. The listeners can't see it, but I can see it. It starts from the top down. Particularly general manager Sean Marks, who is a disciple of Greg Popovich and the Spurs. He played for the Spurs for a while. He worked under Popovich, his tutelage, and he is just a man who was focused on player development. He's focused on having a good environment to work in. Everybody who plays there is happy. Kenny Atkinson is one of the best, most reliable, most eccentric coaches in the NBA. The players have his back. He has their back. It's just the environment there is positive in every which way of the word. The fans are starting to get more into it. Not to mention the Barclays Center is a beautiful place to play.
They're the better team in New York.
Without
They
question.
are and I think they're going to land I personally believe that they're going to land DeMarcus Cousins.
I can
as a
see
free
it.
agent.
I wouldn't doubt it. I could see them landing Kevin Durant. Durant talks about how he wants to go to New York. Why go to the Knicks when you can go to the Nets? I mean, look, I'm not saying that the Nets are going to go to the finals this year, but in my personal opinion, it might just be because I'm a little bit excited about them. Give them 2-3 years. They're a legitimate finals contender in the Eastern Conference. I see the perennial teams in the near future as the Celtics, the Bucks, the Nets. I can't comment on the Raptors because I don't know what Kawhi is going to do. And I can't comment on the Pacers either because I don't really know how Oladipo is going to come back from this injury. And then the Sixers, yes, they have a really good team right now, but we don't know where Butler is going to go. We don't know where Harris is going to go. We don't know if Simmons is going to develop a shot. And Embiid is a great player. Nobody's denying that. So
Can I throw a surprise one at you?
I'm listening.
The Sacramento Kings will be a great basketball team in 3 years.
I agree.
A great basketball
Yeah.
team.
I like Sam. For anyone who doesn't know, we're all diehard Celtics fans, but Sam's a big Nets guy, and his second favorite team, right?
Easily.
I have to put Kings at my second favorite team for
Me
sure.
as well. Me as well. I love their
Love De'Aaron
core.
Fox.
They got my Dookies, Marvin Bagley, Harry Giles. De'Aaron Fox can play. Buddy Hield shoots the hell out of the ball. We are going to see magic in Sacramento.
All right, guys. Final takes. Anything you guys want to close out the podcast with? Matt, go ahead.
I think this was honestly a great discussion. I think we all got a lot out there. I think we all put some great ideas out there for listeners. I suggested, and since this is the first episode, ending it with our top 5 favorite current NBA players, because I know my top 5 is a quite refuted one. Guy got weird looks, but I'm willing to go first if you guys will listen.
Go ahead.
We'll start from the bottom, right? I'm putting 5 at Joel Embiid. I think this guy, even though he is Philly, I'm Boston, but this guy, I love his intensity. I love his. He's going to be a future MVP. He's going to be great. This guy has so much promise, and he's really young. 4th is Gordon Hayward. Also because he's a Celtic.
And because your middle name's Gordon.
And my middle name's Gordon. We share Kyrie, and Gordon Hayward also share the same birthday. And I just give so much props to him for that time in Utah too. 3rd is Russell Westbrook. This guy is, again, same with Joel Embiid. His intensity is out the roof. I love players who get into it. I love players who trash talk. Also, it's ironic that Russell Westbrook and Joel Embiid are bitter enemies. But let that go. 2nd, James Harden. This guy can do everything. He's having, I think, MVP of this year for sure right now. I love his game. I think he's doing something that no one else thought he would. And then first, no question, Kevin Durant. I get a lot of crap for that because of his move to Golden State. Although I didn't agree with the move, I love his body type. I love his. I like just the way he's handled. The way he can, big man who can shoot, best shooter who's not a point guard, right? Easily. So, and I love his passion for the game too.
I thought you were a huge Klay Thompson fan. What about Klay?
He's in the top 10. I love Klay Thompson, and same with, I put De'Aaron Fox in the top 10 too. That's something I would have to give more thought. I love Giannis is up there in the top 10 too. But I definitely, and Marcus Smart. I love Marcus Smart too. But that's definitely the top 5 for sure. Definitely love Klay Thompson though.
Yanni, your list?
So I am big on guys that do the most for their team. That's my huge thing with the NBA and the best players. So, number 5, I had Kawhi. Kawhi is both ends, one of the most dominant players in the NBA. And he has taken this Raptors team and just, flipped the script. They look like a team that can contend for the Eastern Conference Finals. And they will be there come playoff time. Number 4, I love Durant. I think he is the best offensive player in the game today. He can shoot the ball. He can score at will. He is dominant. I would love to see him on his own team after what he's done with Golden State. And there's only upside for Kevin Durant. Even though I hate how he's so involved with the media and Twitter and all that, I think basketball-wise he is easily top 5 in the NBA. Number 3, Anthony Davis is one of the most dominant players in the NBA, and it just not only shows by how many teams desire this man, but he can play both ends, and he's impossible to stop. As a big man, it's hard to make that much of an impact in the league because obviously this league is based on 3s and not 2s, but the guy is a tough guard and will be for the remainder of his career. Number 2 and number 1, I debated heavily. Number 2 is my favorite player in the NBA, Giannis, and I think he is the best overall player in the NBA today. A lot of people will still argue for LeBron James. A lot of people will still say Kevin Durant. I think Giannis is the most unstoppable player we are seeing right now.
You can't shoot, though.
He cannot shoot yet, but once he learns how to shoot, if he does, he will win championships and will be in contention for one of the greatest players of all time that we have seen from what he has done. He is what LeBron was in the past. He can just get to the rim at will, and he is unstoppable. But my number 1 is the guy that if I had to start a team today, I'm taking him a million times out of a million, and that is Steph Curry. Steph Curry is today's basketball. He does it all. He wins. He dominates. The Warriors are not the same when they lose him, and overall, he's just the best team starter that you're going to find today.
All right, well, for my top 5, your top 5 was more revolved around the best players in the game. My top 5 revolves around just the players that I like. I like what they bring to the table, even if they're not the best players in the league. My number 5, I'm going to have to go with from the Nets, Spencer Dinwiddie. With Dinwiddie, we're talking about a guy who played his college ball at Colorado Boulder. He got injured in college, got drafted late, started out in the D-League, got cut by the Bulls, got traded away from the Pistons. He had a rocky start, to say the least. Signs with the Nets on a small contract, and I'm telling you, man, it's the Kenny Atkinson magic, whatever it was. This guy found himself to be a great shooter. He's very good attacking the basket. He's a strong defender. He's a good team player. He has the ability to put up 35-plus points in a night. He comes off the bench. He always works hard. He never speaks badly about really anything. He's just a great team player. He does all the little things that a team needs to be successful. And he's really like a candidate for Sixth Man of the Year this year, in my opinion. My 4th favorite player, I'm a big Joel Embiid guy, too. I hate the Sixers, but Embiid, man, this 7'1", 280-pound monstrosity. You can shoot, dribble, do all these. He's my favorite pump fake in basketball. I know that's random, but it's really fun to watch. I think he's just as good as anybody in the league. Number 3 for me is a guy from the Denver Nuggets who goes by the name of Will the Thrill Barton. This guy, you talk about unconventional scorer, he's the first person that comes to mind. I mean, you try to describe his game, you really can't, because it seems like he does something different with the ball every single time. But what you can say about him is that he consistently gets the ball in the basket. He's got a positive mentality, and he's really a key player on a very strong Nuggets team, and there's a reason why they signed him to a contract extension. What am I at, for number 3?
2.
Number 2, my second favorite player in the league. This isn't easy. I want to say, man, I'm just going to give my number 1. My number 1 is Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart, I mean, you guys agree with me on this. You talk about somebody who does all the little things. Marcus Smart is the epitome of that. He is a top 3 on-ball defender in basketball. He's one of the most clutch players in the game, whether this year be making shots or getting incredible steals at the biggest moments or even taking charges, i.e. James Harden last year. We all know about that. The story never ends with him. The fact that the Celtics re-sign him, I mean, like, he's got green in his blood. You can tell that he wants to be in Boston. Boston wants him there. He exemplifies what hustle, dedication, respect, all those words that you want to see in a basketball player that we don't really see as much nowadays because everyone's so self-centered with their game. Marcus Smart, his goal is to win. He knows what he's good at. He does what he's good at. I mean, I can't say enough about him. And all right, so now I have to list a 5th player that I like a lot. I mean, there's so many guys, but...
I mean, you just went on about Karis LeVert, so is he up there?
Yeah. Thank you, Pat. I'd say Karis LeVert, yeah. We talked about him a lot. He's got the potential to be one of the better. If he stays healthy, he has potential to be a top wing player in this league. He's proven he can hit clutch shots. He's a good shooter. He's strong. He's big. He's athletic. He's a really good player. But the other guy that I was thinking, who I for some reason forgot about, was C.J. McCollum. Big C.J. McCollum fan. Not enough guys have that sort of shifty mid-range game where they can find open spots and hit a shot from literally anywhere on the court. His defense, not necessarily up to par, but I think just in terms of watching the guy with the ball in his hands, he's one of my favorite players to watch. That about wraps it up for us on the first episode of the Hoopcats podcast. I would like to thank my co-hosts, Yanni and Matt. This has been a lot of fun.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
We're going to do this again. Also, a big thank you to our producer, Mr. Benjamin Strawbridge. And we look forward to you guys listening to us more on the TNH Podcast Network. Good night, and thank you.